complement like a community currency type platform, although it's banking class.
All right, you guys ready?
Yeah.
It's 5 o'clock on the dot, Tuesday night. Time for another round of the filter. It's been an exciting week, guys. Have you guys watched the price? You see the price? You see things going on with the maybe a little moonshot here recently. Yes, we always get more people in the room when the price goes up. There seems to be a direct correlation between the price and the attendance at the filter. Today's Tuesday, May 31st, 2016, and today's show is called A Decentralized Future. We're going to talk about what it means when all these things that are centralized today, what happens when those things are decentralized. Is the world a better place when that happens? Yes or no? So I'm going to try and get you guys to chime in on this stuff. I don't think any of us know what's really going to happen with our decentralized future, but maybe we can shed some light today. But before we get there, of course, we're going to go through the local news. I've got some announcements on our YouTube channel. How many people are subscribed to the YouTube channel? Not everybody? Okay. Hopefully you will want to do that because we're going to be publishing some things there in between our get-togethers in person. So hopefully that will be interesting for you. We're going to talk about the price. Yes, the price has gone through the roof. We'll have a little price discussion. We're going to go around the world, visit Sweden. Something interesting in Sweden. Did you guys see the news, the Bitcoin news from Sweden? No? Okay. China. China seems to always be in the Bitcoin news. And Turkey. Anybody know what's going on in Turkey? Okay, good, good. I will share some information with you then. Stick around for that. We'll do a little update on the Dow, and then we'll get into our discussion around decentralization. So let's kick things off. Let me share my screen with the folks at home so they can see what we see. There we go. All right. The filter number 84. We've done this 83 other times. Hopefully we've got one more, at least one more in us tonight. I'm just going to send out a little tweet announcing that we're getting together. Hopefully some people will find us on Twitter. And if you've got Twitter and you see that tweet, maybe you could consider retweeting that. And we can get a little live audience going if enough people join us online. All right, so we're coming to you live from Hubud. Hubud.org. This is the place that has supplied our cushy, comfortable, cool conference room for the last 2 years. Every Tuesday night, rain or shine, we're here at Hubud. And for those of you listening online, if you find yourself in Bali on a Tuesday night, hopefully you'll come join us. Hubud is the place to be. They've got the best internet connection in Ubud, and it's just an all-around fun place to be. There's all kinds of social stuff happening. And you can even get a little bit of work done too. There's some stuff going on. Who's that handsome devil? Check that out. Events in Hubud. We've got Startup Weekend coming in a few weeks. And hey, there's Cinta Bahasa. They're doing a crash course in Indonesian. And how many people are going to the lab?
Bitcoin as well.
Oh yes, and Cinta Bahasa accepts Bitcoin. Yes,
crash course too.
you can trade Bitcoin for the ability to speak the Indonesian language. Yes, that's pretty cool. How many people are going to Hubud's 3rd birthday party? The lab. The theme is the lab. That's on next Saturday, June 4th. Is that Saturday, June 4th? Yeah. Yes. I'm dressing up as a scientist and a goat scientist. So if you want to see what that looks like, then I suggest you. Yes. Yes.
That's right.
Like a goat, a Bitcoin goat scientist? Okay. All right, I'll have to work on that. All right, so yeah, Startup Weekend, June 24th, and the party is June 4th. Check that out. Okay, so how does this stuff work? Well, we get together every Tuesday night, but when we're not together, I know we all wish we could be together every day, but it's just not possible. We get together online at this Bitcoins in Bali Facebook group. I'm happy to announce that I was able to disconnect the other Bitcoins in Bali thing going on.
Oh, good.
So there's no longer any confusion. Hopefully people will find us. Check it out. It's easy to spell Bitcoins in Bali. And what we do is we kind of crowdsource the news. You post, if you find something interesting going on around town or in the area, you can post it here, and we can talk about it here. And then when we get together in person, we can kick it around and do a little face-to-face debating. But that's kind of how the system works. We got some interesting events coming up here in the Bitcoin world. Of course, this is what's going on today. This is actually what we're doing right now. But we do have an events page in the group, and you can see this Friday I'm going to have a follow-up conversation with Victor Tron. You guys remember when I spoke with him last time? Victor is a core developer for the Ethereum project, and his latest project is called Swarm, which is an example of a decentralized system, much like the ones we're going to talk about later tonight. So check that out. The details are on the YouTube channel. I'll be speaking to him on Friday, and you can join live, like at the very same time, or it'll go up as a replay directly afterwards. Also, on Monday, we're going to start doing Monday movie nights at Bali, Bohemia. So I haven't chosen the movie yet, but this coming Monday we will have our first one. It'll be something Bitcoin / money / change the world kind of movie. I'm open to suggestions. We've had a lot of suggestions already, but I just haven't decided yet. But one thing that's cool is they're going to give us a 15% discount if we pay with Bitcoin on that night. So that's pretty cool. And we're going to have the entire upstairs. I don't know if you've seen the upstairs there, but they've got really nice kind of loungy area and a projector and a big screen. So it should be nice as long as the monkeys don't steal your popcorn. Yes. Okay. Let's see. All right, we also have a conversation going on Twitter. If you do use hashtag Bitcoins in Bali, you can see what's going on. Trying to turn the hashtag Bitcoins in Bali into a thing. It hasn't exactly taken off like wildfire yet, but I am persisting. Persistence pays off, maybe. But if I'm posting anything on Twitter, you can bet I'll be using that hashtag, so you can keep up that way. All right, we've also got our YouTube channel, and I hope you guys will consider subscribing. I had a sit-down session with Andrea. Do you guys remember Andrea? He's Andrea BRT on the forums, and I decided just to fire up a session and have a little talk with him about the recent price moves and the Dow. And we had a really nice conversation. And anyway, when I do that kind of stuff, if you have subscribed to the YouTube channel, you will see it, and hopefully some of you will find that that kind of stuff interesting. I might get together with him on a regular basis, and I was thinking of trying to track down Willy Woo and doing it with him as well. So I don't know. Stay tuned.
How about a friend in South Africa?
Yes, Peter. Ben, you know, I saw him when I was in South Africa, and I think I talked him into coming back to Bali. Oh yeah, getting the band back together. Okay, so that's the YouTube channel. We've got Bitcoin 101 happening June 11th, and nobody has signed up for this yet. And I know that we've got a conflict with that eco thing going on in the Green School. Do you know what that is, JP? What's going on at the Green School?
There's a big sign over there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So you haven't been in the past. You don't know if it's like a really cool thing.
It probably is, but no.
I could possibly move this back 1 week because I'm really interested in this eco festival. It seems like a really cool thing. But in any case, stay tuned to the Facebook group. If this changes,
economy professor at the school.
Well, you know, they give the kids Bitcoin, and they
Why don't you
yes.
hold it out there? Yeah, why don't you have one there?
Have a what?
101.
Oh, yes, I think that's a great
In
idea.
conjunction with the festival. Yeah.
We're not going to hang out with the kids, you know, kids.
But the parents need it.
They are?
That's right.
Okay, all right. All right, I'll do
And
it.
the parents will be interested.
Okay, well, I did do a talk out at the Green School.
Yeah, but a talk is not.
It's not.
A 101.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, I think that's a great idea. Let's make it happen.
Goodness gracious.
Maybe.
Grade school parents get a hold of us.
Yeah.
Come on.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. We'll get the Green School on our side. So anyway, as of now, it's June 11th, but I'm considering changing it so we can go hang at the Green School that day, but jury's out. Also, I've got this Get Involved page. If you want to help us build a Bitcoin economy here in Bali, I hope you'll consider getting involved. There's a little bit of information here on the bitcoinsinbali.org website. And I might as well tell you guys now, I am going to be traveling in the month of July and August. So there are little things around town that you can get involved in while I'm away. Hopefully we can keep the ball rolling. We can keep like these Tuesday night meetings happening. And I know that we're always trying to sign up new merchants, and new merchants are coming on board every month. And if anybody would like to meet with me in order to see how they can possibly get their favorite merchant on board, I'd be happy to help them, and hopefully some of that will go on while I'm away. But I still plan to create some content for the YouTube channel while I'm away, and I definitely want to stay connected with you guys, but I will be gone. So if you want to get involved with helping trying to make this Bitcoin economy happen, it's a good time, because we need your help. I'm going to be away. So that's that. Speaking of our local Bitcoin economy, this is, I'm calling it Transaction Tuesday. I'm going to post the local Bitcoin transactions for the week. And you can see we haven't had a zero transaction day since May 8th. The albatross has gotten its feet off the ground here. It's flapping its wings furiously. This, by the way, was Bitcoin 101. We had 28 transactions that day. That was a good day. And what's interesting is the day that the price went up, we had 16 transactions. So, the price went up 10%. The way I figure, like, everyone figured they had a 10% discount on everything they could go buy with Bitcoin that day, right? Everything's on sale when the price goes up overnight. Of course, some people decide that that's when they want to, hoard their Bitcoins. But actually, in the past, whenever the price does go up precipitously, it does lead to a lot of more activity. Well, that economists will tell you that people will hoard when that happens, but what we've seen is that people will spend more when that happens. So I think that's a pretty cool trend. Hello, hello, welcome. All right, so get on out there and spend Bitcoin, and you'll be able to see these numbers rise. Hopefully we can, I'm hoping we can get to an average of over 10 transactions a day. And I'm doing my best to help make that happen. 10 transactions an hour, okay. Maybe next year at this time we'll be at 10 transactions per hour.
And what address is this again?
This is a bunch of addresses. This is a bunch of addresses around town. So
from all the businesses that are
right,
using your
right.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a look at the price. We're in Indonesia, and the Bitcoin exchange in Indonesia is located at bitcoin.co.id, and we are over 7,600,000 rupiah for one Bitcoin. That's a lot of rupiah. Last week we were in 6 million something, so you get a million more rupiah for your Bitcoin these days. Amazing, right? Of course, most people are used to thinking about the price in terms of US dollars. US dollar price, 544.86. That's exciting. What was it last week? Let's take a look at the Bitcoin time machine. Oh my God, it looks like Mount Everest. Last week at this time we were around 440, and now we're at 540, $100 change.
Look at last year at this time.
Yes, let's look. Let's go back 1 year.
Hello.
We were down there around. We were in the basement, 230. So we've
Yeah,
doubled
more
the
than
price.
double, yep.
More than doubled the price. This is really exciting for the Bitcoin merchants that have been accepting Bitcoin for the last 2 years, because they can start to see that this is a store of value, and really they can kind of see that it's the volatility may happen in their favor. Yeah, I think it's good overall for the ecosystem.
230 to 530, great.
Yeah, that's a lot. Why did we have the precipitous rise? Well, according to Shanghai Daily, the price of Bitcoin hit a 2-year high and grew about 30% in the past week due to Chinese volume. The price surge has been attracting 10,000 new investors every day at the Chinese exchanges. More than 80% of Bitcoin investors come from China, including new investors pouring money from shares and P2P sector. Anyway, this is really, I don't know, China just seems to be the 800-pound gorilla in the Bitcoin world. I mean, they've got all the mining power. According to this, they've got to represent 80% of the new investors and transactions, 10,000 new investors every day.
Yeah, and apparently there's a flight of capital out of China.
Well, JP, I'm glad you mentioned that. What has been happening with China? Here's the renminbi USD split, and it turns out that the Chinese central bank devalued the yuan first thing Monday morning. So it seems like some people in China might have known that. Check this out. This is before the weekend, right? Somebody knew something was up, and then after the weekend, we've got the devaluation. So whoever was, if this was a bunch of Chinese people buying Bitcoin, then they made a very good move, because Bitcoin went up in value and the Yuan went down in value. And what if you're a Chinese citizen, what can you do with a Bitcoin that you can't do with a Yuan?
Move it.
Yep. Leave. Spend it elsewhere. Leave the country with it. Defeat
else.
capital controls.
I heard rumors of that sent out the Chinese government devaluing.
Yes. Well,
The whispers last week that it was going to happen, and it burned up on Saturday.
yeah. If anybody reads Zero Hedge, they predicted that this would happen as well. So apparently
Do we know why? Why they did it?
it's because of hawkish statements from the U.S. Federal Reserve. Yes, Janet Yellen is talking about raising interest rates at their June meeting, which would possibly strengthen the dollar. And so, yeah, it's reverberating around the world, all these things that are going on with the Fed. But if you remember, the Fed raised rates back in December, and they were supposed to keep a schedule of raising rates every quarter, 4 per year. They missed the first quarter, and now have they missed the second one? What would June be? Would that be the end of the second quarter?
Second quarter.
Right. So they're talking about still raising rates in June, and that's sending little shock waves around the world. The world is engaged in a currency war, and when that happens, the central banks change their policy in reaction to what other central banks are doing. So
The other thing was it's Memorial Day, right? So the US was closed.
yeah,
So
so
they can't defend it as well.
yeah, we're too busy out barbecuing.
So
Can't.
when's the next one? Independence Day?
Yeah.
Interesting to see what happens.
Yeah. When is the halving again?
July 10th.
Right around there.
Um,
16:09.
So sometimes we take a look at this volatility figure, and you can see for the last 30 days we're up over 2%, but still under 2% for the 60-day. But if you look at this over time, this is the total volatility range going back to 2011. You can definitely see that these peaks are going down. There's a downward trend. And why is that important? This is actually quite interesting if you read it. Volatility means that an asset is risky to hold. On any given day, its value may go up or down substantially. The more volatile an asset, the more people will want to limit their exposure to it, either by simply not holding it or by hedging. Volatility also increases the cost of hedging, which is a major contributor to the price of merchant services. If Bitcoin volatility decreases, the cost of converting it into and out of Bitcoin will decrease as well, right? And there's so that's why volatility matters. And it's really quite encouraging to see volatility substantially changing. If you draw a regression line through there, you can see that it's definitely trending towards less volatility. And once we get down into the 0.5 to 1% range, we're on par with other currencies around the world, right? If you combine that with the ability to spend it in various places around the world, all of a sudden it becomes much more interesting as a currency and as a form of money and as a payment mechanism. So I thought this was quite interesting. For comparison's sake, volatility of gold averages around 1.2%, So you can see we're in that range now on a 60-day basis, and then currencies are between 0.5 and 1. So once we can get there, and ideally we get way lower than that. The Bitcoin volatility, especially against a basket of goods and services that are available for Bitcoin, should become very stable at some point in the future, which would make it very useful as money.
What's the calculation they use to work that out? Because Bitcoin's gone up 20% in the last month.
They've got it.
What's the correlation to the volatility being 2.9%?
I don't know. You'd have to take a look at. I think they do have it documented how they calculate it. But I haven't looked at it in detail. But you think it should be higher because it's gone up so much in the last week?
I'm just curious in terms of how they calculate.
I'm not sure.
It seems low to me in terms of what's happened in the last month.
Hey Edmund, how you doing? Welcome. Come on in. All right.
Surely it's gone up 20% over a month.
All right, let's do a little refresh on this. With Bitcoin, we can take a look in real time at everything that's happening. Unlike other currencies we use on a day-to-day basis, I can refresh this page. It's looking at this thing called the blockchain, which is the public ledger that is Bitcoin. And at any moment in time, we can see exactly how many Bitcoins exist. Right now, we're at 15.6 million Bitcoins in existence. Yeah, market cap over $8 billion now with the recent rise in price. I don't think we've seen over 8 billion for quite a while now. So quite exciting. Okay. Here's the Bitcoin clock. JP, you were asking earlier, when is the halving? And you can see that this hour hand right here, when this strikes midnight, that's when the halving will arrive. And right now the estimate is on July 10th. At about 2:20 in the afternoon, Greenwich Mean Time, which is like in the evening here, right? That's 6 hours later. It's 6 hours later here, so it's perfect time to have a party.
What's the halving?
The halving is, well, Bitcoin has every 10 minutes there's 25 new Bitcoins, but according to the code, on that day, the inflation rate will be cut in half. So every 10 minutes, there will only be 12.5 Bitcoins. So it's a very exciting happening because the inflation rate is going down in half. And if demand for Bitcoin remains the same, then being that there's a finite supply of Bitcoin, it should drive the price higher. But we don't know for sure.
It's kind of like a rapture.
Yes, it's like a Y2K event. It could send the price to the moon, or the whole thing could fail. Could have a technical failure. That's why it's going to be. That's why we're thinking of having a party, because we can raise our glass if it fails, and we can raise our glass if it succeeds.
And
We're covered either way.
Right? We could get there faster if we have more transactions.
It's not just the demand that affects the price; it's the cost of electricity to mine it and lots of factors, isn't it?
Yes. Well, yeah. Lots
the
of
miners
factors.
will want to suddenly stop selling it for the price they're selling it for. They'll suddenly start selling now one levels.
Well, we're going to talk about this in a minute, but at least one miner is going out of business in anticipation of the halving. So we'll talk about that in a second. Before we do that, though, we don't always look at this every week, but this is the transaction volume over the last 2 years or so. And what's interesting is for the last 6 months or so, does this look like it's kind of flat to you? Transaction volume? We're basically, the blocks, almost every block is full these days. And transaction volume has kind of leveled off in the last 6 months. So you're seeing Bitcoin kind of breaking at the seams. It's reached its transaction throughput, and presumably this is causing problems for some people. Have anybody? I know Blair, you have problems with.
Just talk about Bitcoin.
Yeah, but anyone here having trouble with Bitcoin confirmation times or Bitcoin not working right?
You're using AirPods. Switch back. Switch back. I'm having no problem. There's no problem with the other wallets.
I think it's on. Check out Bitcoin.
You're going back to like blockchain wallet or
Blockchain
Airbit's
wallet
wallet?
has no trouble.
Yeah.
Zero, instant,
Okay.
emails instant, everything's
Oh, you have
transactions
someone
really
who's
quick.
Airbits too?
Huh?
You have Airbits problems?
How many people have been having trouble with Airbit's? Okay.
You've had problems? Yeah.
I've just nothing like major, but sometimes it's there's some syncing problems, and I know that before the last version they were calculating the fees in a way that wasn't ideal.
They being
Airbit's.
Airbits.
Do you use Airbit's
I
wallet?
never used them.
Oh, okay. But I haven't had any. In general, I haven't had problems due to the
I
throughput
just paid
problems.
my Hubud membership just now,
Yeah.
5 seconds.
A-okay?
And they
5
let you in.
seconds. And they
Just
let me
like
in.
that.
You can believe it.
Amazing. All right, let's go around the world, guys. First stop is Sweden. Anybody heard of KNC Miner? It's a big mining operation. They are declaring bankruptcy. You know, today's show is about a decentralized future, but these things kind of ebb and flow, and actually some people are saying that Bitcoin is susceptible to centralization and that there is a centralization taking place in China. And check out this headline from KNC, China has advantages that we do not know about. So, you know, we haven't talked about this in a few weeks, but if you look at the difficulty for Bitcoin, it's at all-time highs. So there is a record number of, well, there's record hashing power. And could it be that someone has developed some sort of breakthrough in hashing, in their hashing capacity, and not released it to the public, kept that advantage to themselves, so that they can basically win the Bitcoin lottery more often than their competition around the world?
You can see who wins, right?
Pardon me?
You can see who wins the block.
You can. In fact, I'm going to show you that. Let's see, here is a look at the last 24 hours. You can see that this pool, which is a Chinese pool, found 49 blocks in the last 24 hours. BTC China found 26 in the last 24 hours. These are all the big Chinese miners, right? You can see that China is responsible for a lion's share of the mining.
Which one's the first one that's not Chinese then?
I don't know. I'm not
These are all
sure.
independent miners.
There's KNC Miner though. You can see that they used to be one of the top ones, and they're getting pushed off the bottom of the list, and they are going to close their doors. So, and they're postulating in this article that somehow China has got some sort of advantage, right? And you know, we've talked about this in the past as well. China has the Great Firewall of China, right? And there's a problem with Bitcoin transactions propagating through the entire network over the Chinese firewall. And now that China has got the lion's share of the mining, and presumably they are propagating those new blocks amongst other Chinese miners before those propagate through the Great Wall of China, it seems that they're on a roll. They may have an advantage, and that's exactly what this article is postulating, and these guys are going out of business as a result. So is there centralization in Bitcoin? I don't know. It seems like there might be a danger of that.
Do you think that the Great Wall of China is somehow making the blocks propagate within the firewall more?
Well, if a new block is found behind the Great Firewall of China, then that news will be propagated amongst the Chinese miners before it goes over the wall. So if there is a collision, if two miners find a block at the same time or around about the same time, then there is a race to propagate that new block to the miners that are maintaining the longest chain. So I know that it's a bit technical, but if you're within China and you find a block and someone is outside of China and they also find a block simultaneously, you're more likely to be building on a longer chain behind that firewall than in front of it.
Does it need VPNs to get through the firewall, or is that a Bitcoin network?
I don't know if it's Well, I mean, China monitors all traffic that comes in and out. And so presumably some of that is going through a tunnel. Incidentally, when I was talking with Andrea, he was just on a business trip in China, and he was unable to use his company's VPN in China. So he was totally dead in the water, unable to get back and forth. So I don't know what's going on with the Chinese firewall, but it's a thing. And actually,
they are pretty fanatical, the Chinese about Bitcoin. Maybe it's just their fanaticism that's enough for them to keep doing it at a loss or something.
Yeah, I don't know. You know, it's hard to tell what's going on, and that's why I posted this talk. Actually, this was posted by Ashish, and this is the CEO of BTC China. And if you remember, look, this is the second largest mining pool. And this guy went to Stanford. He speaks English with no accent, but he basically runs Bitcoin in China. So this is a very good talk. You can get kind of a feel for what kind of a guy he is. And this guy,
like a crooner. Like he's
he's like a Tony Bennett. He's gonna.
And the suit.
That is some stage at Stanford. He's a Stanford alum, and it's a good talk, and it does give you a little inkling into what the mindset is in China. It's definitely something. Oh, before I forget, can I ask you guys to let me know you're here? I've got a Bitcoin sign-in sheet here.
So Gary, is it possible that if blocks are solved behind the firewall of China, and they are then propagated to the longest chain behind the firewall of China, that there can be a whole lot of miners outside of that firewall still thrashing away at something that's already been solved?
Yes.
And then
Right.
the people behind the firewall of China are already in the know, so then they've got
They're already
head
working on
start
the next block.
one.
Yes.
So it would depend on where the majority of hashing power was, whether it was within the firewall or
Right.
outside of it.
yes.
Yes, now within.
And what's the delay within? So of
The
course,
delay is
time.
that some of the traffic is blocked by the Chinese government coming in and out
in
of China.
time. What's the delay in time?
Oh, it's just milliseconds, but it's enough to make a difference. And actually, this relates to the block size debate because the core developers have made a decision not to increase the block size because of the Great Firewall of China, because it takes, if the blocks were 2 megabytes, 8 megabytes, then it would take even longer for the news to spread throughout the entire web of participants in the Bitcoin network. And I've got a little bit of news on that to share.
Mine with China.
Yeah. Well, and it makes you wonder, like, what kind of power do they already have over our shared reality that is the blockchain? You know, if they wanted to start to control what transactions get approved and not approved, or even manipulate the fee marketplace,
That's
are they able to make decisions about what transactions make it into the next block? And can they discriminate based on geography, for example? I don't know. But there is a interesting breakthrough that we've had in terms of this very problem of propagating past the Great Firewall of China. You know, a while back we were talking about Bitcoin Classic, and I actually did a whole show on Bitcoin Unlimited. And this is some tech that has come out of this ecosystem that has come up around the problems that we've been trying to overcome as a community. And in the development of multiple implementations of Bitcoin, we've come across this bit of tech. I'll read it for you. The fracturing of Bitcoin development into several competing implementations bore fruit on 16 March 2016 with the release of Bitcoin Unlimited. Contained within this release was a new technology called Extreme Thin Blocks, or XThin for short. XThin fixed a long-standing inefficiency from Bitcoin Core where transactions were often received twice by each node. Nodes supporting XThin can propagate blocks using fewer bytes and in less time than nodes that rely on standard blocks. And this technology will allow them to increase the block size if they can get it implemented. And that means on-chain scaling. So perhaps we will get a bigger block size sooner rather than later. And actually, this is part of Blockstream's roadmap. Somebody recently posted a scaling Bitcoin article within the group. This was like a week or a week and a half ago. And I went back and read it. And Adam Back, who's the CEO of Blockstream and kind of holding the reins these days on Bitcoin core development, has said that he will increase the block size. And we're waiting for this problem to be solved to do it. So this is really good news. I know it's a little bit nerdy and technical, but all you really need to know is that the transaction throughput problem that I talked about, this flat line that we're starting to see should be alleviated once this technology makes it in.
Sorry, I'm sort of a Bitcoin newbie, but is this part of the vanilla Bitcoin version of cryptocurrencies, or is this another like a fork version of cryptocurrency?
This technology is in a rival Bitcoin implementation.
I see.
So it's something that some number of nodes could implement, and it would mean less smaller transaction size and availability for bigger blocks. Or this is something that the core implementation could also implement. But yeah, it's not part of the vanilla implementation. It's within a rival.
Change rather than a software hardware.
I'm not sure.
I think it's probably a protocol change, but no actual fault, isn't it? But it's just a few new words that are allowed between peers.
Yeah,
So
I'm not sure.
how is it decided what gets into this vanilla version of Bitcoin and what doesn't? Who's controlling this? Because they seem to be very powerful.
Yes, that's a very good question. We were just talking about mining centralization. We've also got the dangers of development centralization.
Yeah.
And the developers, I think there's like 5 or 6 developers that have commit access to the Git repository for Bitcoin Core.
For something like this, the voting would be decided by the node operators rather than the miners or the core developers. So, like the core developers, people can choose to go with a certain branch of development, but ultimately it's down to the node operators.
Well, I don't know. Isn't it up to the miners? I mean,
For something like this, because this is more about node to node, it doesn't really affect the blocks creation, which is what the miners are involved in. So,
yeah.
So this is really influenced mostly by people who choose to run 4 nodes and which source code they choose to use for that.
Yeah, I honestly don't know enough to speak intelligently about whether it's a node thing or a miner thing or a.
That's my educated guess.
Yeah. But well, it is interesting the world we find ourselves in, where there are proposed solutions for technical problems, and that's not good enough. Everyone has to agree on what the technical solution should be, and they vote by running a certain version of the software or a certain implementation of the Bitcoin code. So stay tuned. We still have 1 megabyte blocks the last time I checked, so we're not out of the woods yet. All right, last but not least on our world tour, quick little note from Turkey. And a remnant of our centralized past, which will soon be the distant past, I hope. PayPal shuts service to Turkey. So you can no longer receive PayPal payments in Turkey. Why? The Turkish authority in charge of regulating and licensing banking and payment systems across all electronic or conventional platforms has repeatedly refused to grant operational license to this US-based company. So anyone remember Turkey being in the news for other things recently? It's a bit of a hot spot these days. Erdogan, you've heard of Erdogan, right? Turkey is a NATO member, but they find themselves shooting at Russian planes. There's a geopolitical thing happening in that part of the world right now, and I gotta believe that this has got something to do with it. When you start to see payment channels being shut down and government authorities kind of stepping in and messing with these things, it's all part of a more and more unstable geopolitical landscape that we find ourselves in. Bitcoin users are not affected. So anyway, if you're in Turkey, you need to close your PayPal account. Sorry. All right, let's talk about the Dow. We've been talking about the Dow every week because it's the most exciting thing that's been going on lately besides the price. And the sale of the Dow is over. Did you guys see this? Next price phase 0. This is also 0. Looks like around 132 million US dollars was raised. And now the Dow is trading on the open market. So if you got your hands on some Dow tokens, the original IPO is now over. $130 million was raised, and now there is a secondary market for these Dow tokens, this ability to vote for projects that get to be funded by this brand new thing called a distributed autonomous organization. Right? We are in the next phase. This company is, well, it's not really a company. It's an organization that has no owner. The owner is code. For the first time ever, there's tens of millions of dollars that are in the control of software code. It doesn't belong to a person, doesn't belong to a legal entity. It belongs to some computer code. So you can tell your grandchildren you were around when the machines took over. This is the first step in, machines like dominating us and turning us into their slaves. So
what you just described sounds like Bitcoin.
Yeah.
What's that? Oh, well, yeah.
It's about Bitcoin.
Bitcoin is the first distributed autonomous organization, arguably.
Yes.
And I'm actually going to make that argument when we get to that part. So, but anyway, the crowd sale is over, and now all of you proud owners of the Dow token can either sell your Dow token, or you can wait and see the proposals that are submitted to the Dow. I think there are 17 different proposals to date. Well, the value of your tokens depend on you making good decisions with your voting power.
Has the
And
market rate gone up beyond 1 ether now?
good question. Let's look. What are Dow tokens trading at on Kraken? It looks like one Dow token is worth 0.009 ether. So it has gone down. Yes. When the Dow first went on sale, you could buy it for 1 ether, was for 100, right? So
that
this
makes
was
no sense. Why would anyone sell it for less than 1 ether? I thought the code allowed you to convert it back to ether.
I'm not exactly sure, but I know that there's well, apparently it's selling for people are selling at a loss at this stage, because the cheapest price they could get it for to start with was
0.01.
yeah, 0.01, and they're selling for less than that. So maybe there's some pessimistic people, some buyer's remorse going on.
But the price of ether's gone up. So if you sold and then cashed in your ether.
But you can convert any DAO back to 1 ether. You can convert any DAO back to 0.01 ether, because that's the. As long as you don't actually vote, then you can always back out. Which is why so many people bought the DAO, because they knew that you could easily convert back to ether.
On a one-to-one basis. But actually,
ether's
There's a waiting period, right?
but actually, it's come back down now.
It's probably
Yeah.
Yeah, the price of ether has come way down since the end of the Dow sale.
So,
So
if you bought in at the start, the price of ether was like $7, $8. So 50% profit. If you were cashing out your ether.
Well, it depends on, there's a waiting period to get your ether back out of this, to change your Dow token for ether. It's like 30 days. So
But
if
you
the price of ether goes back down, then you're.
So what's this then?
this is Kraken. This is the secondary market for Dow tokens.
So you can sell your Dow token for ether.
Today, you can sell your Dow.
30 days, and then you can just transfer it back into Bitcoin or to cash it out, whatever you want to do. So you can trade it on the secondary market.
One way is splitting from the Dow. Another way is trading from the secondary market. The difference is that when you split from the Dow, you still, in theory, retain the reward tokens that you had before the split. So yes, so the second way you're going to wait a little bit longer, but in theory, you still have the reward tokens. Whereas if you sell it in the secondary market, you also lose your share of the tokens.
But I'm just trying to explain why people are cashing out 7% below the buy-in price. So if they're cashing out of the secondary market, cashing in their ether, and they bought in at $8 for the ether at the initial starting of the Dow, that made 50%. Theoretically, right? Or am I missing something?
Ah,
They're losing.
that sounds.
No, they're
No,
losing
they
money
just-
on the first secondary trade, right? So by selling the Dow back to ether, because they're losing 7% according to that. But then the price of ether, because the demand has gone straight up from ether, it was like $8 or something when the Dow purchases started. So they're actually making money on cashing out of ether. Which
But
might
they'd be
be,
better off selling it, if the price of ether's gone up, they'd be better off converting back to ether than selling it as ether, rather than selling it as Dow.
Yes, but this
This allows
pair
them
is
to
down
do
to
it.
ether.
Yeah.
yeah,
So
so
there's
there's,
a 30-day waiting period from converting back to ether.
So why is
that's
anyone
ether.
selling Dow anything less than 0.1 ether?
Because if they can get out into ether now, and ether is worth twice as much as it was when they bought the Dow, then
They can
they've
just
made a
convert
profit.
the Dow back to ether at exactly 0.01.
But no, there's a waiting period.
There's
That's different. That's a different process.
Yeah.
That's splitting from the Dow. That's a directly a different process from selling it from the second market.
that's why I think you saw ether really drop off Sunday. Saturday, Sunday, it started going
When,
down. Straight as soon as it closed, it started going down.
Could we have predicted that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's
Yeah.
exactly what I was saying
Yeah.
2 weeks ago, and Stammen was biting my head off about it.
It's got a gazillion
You, well, you see, you didn't show up tonight.
Not 7%.
Well, yeah, okay. But I
All
was
right.
saying that it would drop straight away.
Well, hopefully, nobody mortgaged their house to buy the Dow, because it's looking like.
But it's too late. It's too early.
So people are expecting ether to go down in price, which is why they're jumping the gun now.
The price of ether should go down.
Because it was inflated because of the Dow.
It should go down. Eventually go down. It's too early to tell.
What
All right.
about
There's a
these
lot of people who got
projects?
in early, right?
What's that?
There's a lot of people that got in early at that discounted rate.
Right, the 1-to-1 was the first 2 weeks.
It's a really good
When you
predictor
first
of the
heard about
market,
it, it was like 80 million
It's really reveals.
So maybe they're like settling out of half their positions or something.
Could
I don't
be.
know. They can't be too liquid, so it can only be pretty small.
Yeah.
Someone is buying Dow tokens that are still going to be attached to the Dow project. So they're not being converted. That's like Jim said, that's a process. So there is still a reasonable demand for Dow tokens that are still attached to that.
This is the right time
Yep.
to buy.
And now you're gonna
Yeah, it seems like seems like a good time to buy.
So
Or wait for
Or
so ether to drop a bit further and get a better,
Yeah,
unless it starts to correct.
kind of makes your head spin, doesn't it? All right, guys. Let's talk about why we all came tonight. And with all this talk about ether, all this talk about the Dow, distributed autonomous organizations, distributed apps, D-apps, we're heading into a new world. We're heading into a new era. Like I said, this is something you can tell your grandkids about. You were here when this started to take shape. I can also tell my grandkids that I was there when the internet got there, and also I was around when they invented radio and fire.
Color television.
Fire.
But yeah, this is like a major trend, I think, happening in the world. And what does it all mean? We don't really know yet. We started with kind of a centralized model, right? The mainframe computer. You guys remember when mainframes were around and they had punch cards? You actually had a piece of paper that your computer program was a bunch of holes in that piece of paper, and you fed the piece of paper in, and there's a bunch of crunching noises and whirring fans and poodle skirts, and it was a very centralized model back then, right? There was one computer crunching numbers, and it was so centralized that 100 people would use one computer, and you'd do what's called timeshare, right? With the mainframes. Of course, then, the 80s came around and we had Windows, and we had all of that computing power that took up an entire room was now on your desktop, and they had what's called Clientserver. Do you guys remember Clientserver? Where you've got, desktop apps that can do all kinds of things. We had, I think the first killer app was spreadsheet programs where you could actually do all those calculations right on your own desktop. And of course, Microsoft Windows came along. This next one is quite interesting, though. Do you guys remember Sun Microsystems? So this represents kind of a decentralization phase. We went from mainframe, and now we're into client server. And look at the tagline for Sun Microsystems. The network is the computer. You guys remember that? The network is the computer. I remember seeing that and going, what? Like, I really did not get that at all. The network is the computer. As far as I was concerned, you know, I had a computer on my desk, and I could do spreadsheets and things. And we really didn't have the internet yet. You know, these things, we had email, and these machines were somewhat connected, right? But there was really, whoever thought of this, the network is the computer, I think was like a whole generation too early.
No, because they were being used by large distributed organizations like the space program and stuff. So
Okay.
yeah, that's this and entertainment. The entertainment industry used Sun Microsystems almost exclusively.
Mm-hmm.
So you're passing.
But Sun Microsystems created very powerful individual computers.
Yeah. But like a lot of times, if you needed to render something, animation and that sort of thing, it was all Sun. It was all Sun.
But would you say Sun was a networking?
They were pioneers in it. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, if they weren't doing it then, they definitely were seeing the future of what was possible. And I just find it interesting that that they use that slogan, because I think we're heading back that way now.
I mean, the term network, like neural networks, has been around for a while, and that was often considered like, you know, the
Right.
computer. Really, so.
Yeah.
Well, here's another tidbit. The machines most often chosen to serve the industry that always drives the adoption of a new form of media, which is pornography, were always Sun servers.
Yeah.
So yeah, the people who made the early money on the web had Sun machines to serve.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I would argue that we went through yet another phase of centralization when we went to the web. You guys ever seen this?
Yay!
This is Amazon.com, the very first.
So great.
The arrival of the World Wide Web turned your very powerful computer back into a terminal, right? And we started doing everything inside the browser, and we started doing everything in a very, what I would call, centralized way. You know, we've got Amazon's a very centralized shopping place. eBay was a very centralized auction. You got Twitter, that's central. You got Facebook, that's central. So we've kind of, I would argue we went back to a very centralized model. And we've actually seen the problems with that. Of course, you know, Facebook gets accused of censoring. They've also done experiments where they control people's moods and behavior by what shows up in their feed. Tremendous power. Also, problems with centralization we've seen where companies like Target or Sears gets hacked, and all of 1 million or 2 million credit card numbers get stolen. This is a function of a centralized model. Of course, the U.S. government's personnel database was hacked, and every U.S. government employee, their central database was compromised. So these are the problems with centralization. And now we're heading back into a decentralized world. Take a look at this little movie from one of the companies that's trying to do something interesting called MadeSafe. Check it out. Hopefully. Oh, let me see here. There we go. There we go. Thanks. All right, let's play this.
Today, almost all our personal data is centrally stored and controlled by large technology companies. These companies can read our data, corrupt it, or delete it at will, and many choose to sell our private information for huge profits, or on request, provide it to governments, often without our knowledge. Storing data in central points, such as servers, also makes it insecure, and reports of stolen credit card details, personal information, photos and passwords to our many online accounts are a daily occurrence. We deserve a way of sharing and communicating that puts us in control of our own data. that enables us to enjoy the many amazing benefits of the internet without many of the downsides. This new way is called the Secure Access for Everyone, or SAFE network, and it is brought to you by MadeSafe. Instead of using traditional data centers and servers, the SAFE software joins together the spare computing resources of its users, creating a global data and communications network. On SAFE, it's possible to do absolutely anything you can do on today's existing and vulnerable internet, such as messaging, email, social networks, data storage, video conferencing, and many more. Together with a blossoming community of third-party developers, the range and diversity of these apps are growing rapidly. All that you require to do to join this network is download the free SAFE software, create your account, and tell the network how much space you're going to provide. It's that simple. This is a network of equals, and ownership belongs to all users all the time. Claim your privacy, security, and freedom, and join the SAFE network today.
Okay, so this is a very interesting idea. I would say that this is where the network is the computer, right? Where you're not aware of any particular piece of hardware that's either serving up your bandwidth or serving up your content or data. It just exists out in the cloud, and it's not a cloud provider company. It's a cloud provider infrastructure, a cloud provider protocol based on blockchain technology. Of course, this is MadeSafe, but this is also the vision of Ethereum. Here's a little bit on Ethereum.
How will the internet work in the future? It will use Ethereum. Ethereum is a planetary scale computer powered by blockchain technology. Applications built on Ethereum run exactly as programmed, without any possibility of downtime, censorship, or third-party interference. Ethereum is the secure backbone for everything from e-commerce to the Internet of Things, enabling transparent governance for communities and businesses while keeping user communication secure. Wix, the Ethereum IDE, makes it easy to develop, debug, and deploy your applications. While building UIs is done using your existing web development skills, tools, and favorite frameworks. Ethereum handles user authentication and secure payments for you, as well as messaging and even decentralized storage. And there's no need to sign up or pay for servers to host your applications, as Ethereum is the world's first zero infrastructure platform, allowing your users to regain control over the management of their own funds and personal data. Join the many already developing on Ethereum.
Okay, so obviously Ethereum's doing the same thing, and we've got this concept of a decentralized application, or DApp, right? And these are applications that run out on the internet, and they have no owner. They have nobody running the show. These are headless rule implementers or information providers that cannot be sued or shut down or censored. And the implications are really quite interesting. The first example of a decentralized application is Bitcoin itself, right? Bitcoin is just a set of rules, and it doesn't have an owner. It just has voluntary participants, and it pays for itself and has the incentive structures in place to perpetuate its own life, right? There's no Bitcoin company. There's no 1-800-Bitcoin number. There's nobody to sue, nobody to stop, nobody to shut down. It is the first distributed autonomous organization. It is the first DApp, or decentralized application, and it replaces money. But what else can we decentralize, and what are the ramifications? What comes to mind is other government functions, like title registries, for example. Or how about identity management? Right now we rely on our governments to give us a passport, but what if we had our own passport with our own identity information that would allow people that we do not know, give them the ability to validate that we are a constructive member of society, that we pay our bills, that we are a good credit risk, etc. These are the things that are possible when you've got an agnostic digital platform that doesn't discriminate based on anything but the rules that are written in code.
How about voting?
Voting, yes.
Like direct.
We've already got the default machines, though. Aren't those good enough?
Yeah, right.
You know. Yes, voting, all kinds of government functions. Do you think government's going to go for that?
Well, maybe.
Well, the existing governments aren't, because this is a new government in a way, isn't it? This is a beginning of a government.
It is. It's the machine government. Like I said, it's the machines taking over. Well, yeah, I think that there's a possibility for all kinds of government functions to be replaced.
Why shouldn't they? I think if they can swap little things so they can save some money, it's a good entry for
Yes.
work.
Well, you're saving money, but you're also making government obsolete, or wide swaths of what government provides us.
You're making bureaucracy obsolete, not necessarily government.
But step by step.
Maybe these governments will end up getting a seat on within the
On the
EU
UN.
or the UN or something. I
Yeah.
don't know, maybe they'll have an interface where they.
Maybe the Dow will have a
they're
seat
dealing
on the
with
UN.
rest of the
Oh, yeah.
That'd be cool.
Who speaks for the Dow?
You are fired.
It adds a whole new meaning to the phrase "computer says no," right?
I'm sorry, Dave.
No, but the government is already using Bitcoin. We talked last week, I believe.
Oh, what did I say?
Yes. So
Yeah, my brain doesn't work that well.
some services are already payable by Bitcoin.
Oh, yeah, there's a Swiss government, I think a municipal government in Switzerland that's allowing people to pay their fees with Bitcoin. So there's some
So
experimentation
that's the
going on.
first example. Because
Yes.
that's Bitcoin is.
Yes. Well, and I just wonder how governments will react when, half of what they do becomes, we always talk about McDonald's workers getting automated out of existence, but what happens when, government,
Politicians.
yeah. It's an interesting thing to
Will
think
there
about.
be a bunch of laws like for example, if someone creates a proposition on the Dow, assassinate this president, like what laws govern that organization? Which countries' laws would, and would there need to be laws established for an organization which has no?
I don't know. These are the waters we'll have to navigate together. There are bad people in the world, and the technology can probably be used for good things and bad things. And just like it gives us new good capabilities, it might give us new bad capabilities. And how will humanity react? That's the question.
Arguably, the first big decentralized app was a SETI at home, if you remember
Ah,
that.
yes, that's true. And that's
Yeah.
like 20 years old, right?
Yes, it is. That happened in the 90s, and that was Carl Sagan's project to crunch the massive amounts of data from the radio telescopes, scanning the skies for signs of intelligent life elsewhere.
Yes.
It just required so much computing power that they couldn't afford to rent time on supercomputers.
Mhm.
So they did the first, donate your down cycles of
Yes.
your computer on the network to crunch this data for you. And if it's your computer that finds that key piece of data, you will get credit.
Yeah.
And that worked out beautifully.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, it's amazing how these ideas how they kind of come and go, the centralization and the decentralization, and the network is the computer. People had these ideas going way back, and it's also interesting that we see with Bitcoin attempting to be a decentralized currency, we're seeing the centralization creep back in with the centralization of miners, with the centralization of the development, like we talked about. So it seems like there's a constant struggle between diversity and centralization, and people trying to get power, and then people trying to give power away to the masses.
It's sort of like whenever you build a road, there's always someone who's going to figure out how to pay a toll, to collect a toll, right?
Uh-huh.
And there's something that they're going to tell you that you need so that you will have to pay the toll.
Yes.
It's really very interesting because most roads start off open and free, you know?
Yeah.
Historically.
Well, it's a good analogy because these things do become public goods, right? And I wonder what will happen when it's no longer possible to create a toll booth.
I think that's always the thing. And
Is that what we're going for?
We keep looking at, oh, well, here's the Chinese, they're creating a toll booth, or, you know, wherever
Yeah.
there's an open road, people look for ways to take toll. And
Yeah.
I'm hoping, like, well, is there something we can just kind of not even bother about that with?
Yes.
I think the examples you gave in terms of government and stuff, that's an idealistic future a long way off because government's actually clamping down on everything as opposed to opening things up.
True.
I think where this is exciting is things like Uber,
Yes.
which are currently centralized and taking a shitload of money out of the system, where that can be completely decentralized and make it either cheaper or give back to a community of wherever the service is provided, for example. And that's, I think, one of the reasons why Bali and the Banjars and whatnot dislike Uber so much. Because 20% or 25% or whatever their price model is leaving the economy rather than actually staying in the local economy. And that's a different way of looking at it because they want to get their hands on that for their own things. But why can't that 20% or a part of that contribute to the upkeep of the roads locally where the transport's actually happening? And I think if something decentralizes like Uber, Airbnb, Facebook, Twitter, all these things that have gone global, that it can be a lot more efficient and a lot more beneficial to the users in their own environment where they're using it.
Yes, I think you're right.
That's something that's exciting. The government thing is a pipe dream. That's an absolute pipe dream.
Yeah.
Then how do you convince those interests to be enlightened in terms of supporting the communities? Because really, we haven't seen a lot of that. We haven't seen a lot of Uber giving back.
No.
But
Yeah,
you
you
know,
what you want, right? If there's an initiative that gives back to Bali, you know, they're going to cut back on Uber's market share.
Exactly.
Which just need a new.
When there's a new, and I think Ethereum is the starting of what we're seeing is possible to be able to create these that are exactly the same as Uber, but doesn't send it all to San Francisco.
Right. I mean, and so even so, though, I'm like, you know, to pay for the roads and stuff, you think that will naturally occur.
I don't know. That was just an example I came off the top of my head, but more rather than centralizing the commission of that
to
right all the
some
way
distant,
back to
that's
right,
for sure granted,
and no tax being paid on it to contribute to the local economy or whatnot. I think the next iteration of things like that can be more decentralized in the sense of how it gives back to the community. I don't know. That's part of the smart contract that's built into it, and that's part of the appeal of why you use it, right?
Yeah, this is where I think it's really exciting. Like we're at that kind of architectural and cultural moment where we can say, you know, yeah, if you do set something up like this, how are you giving back to your community?
Well, you could if you had this decentralized autonomous organization, you could build that right into the code.
That's what I'm saying.
And then the entire community could see that 20% of every taxi ride is going to the Banjar where that taxi was rolling around, right? Yeah. And then that Banjar can use it to build the roads, and all of these things can become way more transparent, way more fair.
That money that went back to them is clean,
right.
is exposed.
Right.
You know,
well,
we all get to see that.
And we'll get there eventually. I think Blair's right. It's the government stuff's a long way off, but we can do better when it comes to things like Airbnb and Uber and other maybe even quasi-government things like the domain name system or ICANN. Those things could be decentralized as well.
So it's arguable that the infrastructure is not completely mature yet. It's going to take years.
Yes, Ethereum infrastructure.
To everyone's point, there are things that we can potentially do in the future that we just cannot do right now. Where it's not just not the structure is not fully in place and mature and stable for certain things to happen. It's when the internet started, and if we look back in 1991, 1992, Facebook was not there. It took more than 10 years for it.
Yes. Yeah, you're right.
The Facebook for something like this probably.
Yes.
We were looking at 20 something.
Right.
But if you owned like Mate say, if you owned your own data to contribute to that network like Facebook, because at the moment none of us own our own data. Facebook owns it all, right? So what if that Facebook next iteration that can be provided through Ethereum or whatever next thing kind of happens, you own your contribution to the network.
It could very much.
That would be a lot better, right? So you get paid for your participation in the network.
But a lot of things have to happen.
Yeah, of course. But that's what I'm saying. Like the government thing is so much further down the road because they own guns. When you corner a cat's going to fight its way out, right? The government's not going to release control. They're not going to do themselves out the job. So I think we need to bring the eyes down a little bit. Just go, okay, what are, you know?
I don't disagree. I mean, if you make a perfectly valid point, we have to start from somewhere. Yes, I agree that the government it's farther along, but that's more. The obstacles are not technology. It's
right. Well, what's cool is we've got a Bitcoin playground here in Bali. Got a little crypto experiment zone here that we're trying to build, and hopefully we can make some of those things happen. We could build a little decentralized taxi service.
Absolutely.
We could start doing our own Airbnb. We could start putting some slocket locks on 100 villas in Ubud. Hopefully people will see the potential, and maybe we can try some of those things here. But we are out of time, guys. Thank you for coming tonight. Thank you for making it a great conversation. Like always, we do this every Tuesday night. So hopefully you will be here same time, same channel next week. And until then, we'll see you on the Facebook group and on the YouTube channel. And don't forget to take a look at Bitcoin 101, which happens on June 11th. All right, see you next Tuesday, guys. Thanks.